Sri Haraya Namaha. There is an ongoing propaganda against ISKCON in general and other Vaishnava Sampradayas too, that Vaishnavas do not accept the supremacy of Shiva and other Devatas, and therefore it is done out of hatred or disrespect to them by considering them demigods or subordinate deities to Vishnu. How true is this, and what's the scriptural basis for this? Is such a belief of ISKCON supported by the Shastras, or is it a made-up story? Through this video, we shall find out the truth and dive into the complete and detailed, straightforward explanation why so. Watch this video till the end to receive a proper explanation on this topic. Firstly, it's important to get a background of this. To understand anything, we obviously need to know it from the roots. There are numerous darshanas within Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. Since thousands of years, there have been numerous darshanas, each interpreting the Shastras, especially the Vedas, in a different manner. Most of them trace their origin to either Devatas or Rishis. Some, like Yoga, were founded by Sri Brahmadeva. Some are atheistic and completely do not even accept the concept of a supreme being or Bhagavan. However, what's common is that all of them accept the Vedas, and all of them are derived from the Vedas in some way or the other, though their interpretation of the Vedas and their meanings are different. Among the ones popular today, there are many like Shaiva, Vaishnava, Shakta, Smarta, etc. When it comes to Vaishnavism, there have been two major Vaishnava Siddhantas, Pancharatra and Vaikhanasa. The Pancharatra Agamas are widely followed today by almost all major Vaishnava Sampradayas. The Vaikhanasa Agamas are derived from the Vaikhanasa Shaka of the Krishna Yajurveda, while the Pancharatra Siddhanta is derived from the Ekayana Shaka of the Shukla Yajurveda. With the exception of quotations by Acharyas, the Ekayana Shaka is completely lost today, while the Vaikhanasa Shaka survives in fragments with some of its components being available. All the Vaishnava Sampradayas today except Vaikhanasa derive their Siddhantas directly from the Pancharatra Agamas, which are texts dealing with temple worship, philosophy, and other rituals. The Agama Shastras are the very core of both temple worship and philosophy. The entire Vaishnava Siddhanta is derived from them, and they are the basis of it. During the beginning of creation in Satyayuga, Sri Brahma meditated upon Sri Vishnu and acquired the knowledge of the Pancharatra Siddhanta. This is mentioned in the Shatapatha Brahmana, where Brahma is said to be performing a yajna of 5 nights, giving the name Pancharatra. This is explained in detail with an Upabrahmana in the Mahabharata, where it is explained how he was originally unable to perform the creation properly, but obtained the knowledge of the Pancharatra Agamas from Sri Vishnu, and after doing so, he created the lokas and all the beings during Satyayuga. As a result, the Pancharatra Siddhanta has been existing since Satyayuga in practice. Later on, however, Sri Vishnu himself appeared as Narayana Rishi and gave a more detailed explanation of the Pancharatra Siddhanta, expanding it into a philosophy that can be practiced without the Vedas or its procedures, as not everyone is eligible to practice the Vedas. Therefore, the objective of it was to ensure that all Vaishnavas, regardless of jati, varna, race, etc., to obtain moksha with the philosophical knowledge of the Pancharatra Agamas and by following their procedures. As the very source of the knowledge of the Pancharatra Siddhanta is Sri Vishnu himself, who is Bhagavan, the Shastras repeatedly have glorified it as the best source of knowledge. It has been also glorified in the Mahabharata itself numerous times. Rishi Vaishampayana himself says, after comparing and explaining about the various philosophies such as Yoga, Samkhya, Pashupata, etc., and concludes by saying, Pancharatrasya Kritsnasya Vakta tu Narayana Swayam. The narrator of the Pancharatra Agamas in their entirety is Sri Narayana himself, and therefore it is the best possible source of knowledge. They have also been stated to be equivalent to the 4 Vedas, as they provide the same knowledge and enable the person to attain the highest abode with or without the Vedas. One of the earliest Pancharatrika Vaishnavas was Devarshi Narada himself, as stated in the Chandogya Upanishad, where he himself states that he has the knowledge of the Ekayana philosophy, that is the Pancharatra Agamas, which are also known as Satvata or Ekayana, as they are derived from the Ekayana Shaka of the Shukla Yajurveda. This is repeated in the Mahabharata, which also states that the Pancharatra Siddhanta is a Maha Upanishad equivalent to the 4 Vedas. In the Varaha Purana too, Sri Varaha himself tells Devarshi Narada that he is attainable only through the Pancharatra Agamas, the Vedas, through Bhakti or through Yajnas, and no other means, even in crores of years. A detailed explanation on this has already been given in our previous videos and in our blog article too. The links are in the description. Now, returning to the main topic. Why do ISKCON and other Vaishnavas deny the supremacy of Shiva? The simple answer is, because it contradicts the Pancharatra and Vaikhanasa Agamas, which are the core of all Vaishnava Sampradayas and should be followed by them. Just as it wouldn't make sense if Astika Darshanas rejected the Vedas, it would not make sense for a Vaishnava to go against the very doctrine of the Pancharatra or Vaikhanasa Agamas. Now, accepting Shiva as the supreme being or Paramatma would contradict the very doctrine of the Pancharatra or Vaikhanasa Agamas. Because one of the very basic philosophical tenets of the Vaishnava philosophy is that Sri Vishnu alone is the supreme being or Paramatma and not Sri Rudradeva. In fact, let alone calling Sri Rudra as a demigod, the Vaishnava Agamas mention that Rudra, Brahma, Indra, Surya, Agni, etc. and all the other devatas are jivas or living entities and positions. They are vibhutis or expansions of Sri Vishnu, with Sri Vishnu's amsha as their antaryami within the heart next to their soul. Sri Vishnu has different levels of manifestation, one of which is Vyuha. There are 4 Vyuha forms of Sri Vishnu as stated in the Vedas, Puranas and other Shastras. They are Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. The being who resides within the heart of Shiva is Sri Vishnu's Vyuha form Sankarshana, who is also the originator of the form of Narasimhadeva. And that's why the Prakasha Samhita says that Narasimhadeva is the Antaryami of Sri Rudra. Shiva, Indra, Brahma and all the other devatas belong to a category of Vishnu's manifestations known as Pradurbhava Antaras, expansions of Vishnu who are not Sakshat Bhagavan. Sri Vishnu's Sakshat Avataras, on the other hand, are known as Pradurbhavas. Now, as stated earlier, the Puranas and other Shastras very much support the Pancharatra philosophy and also therefore mention this particular aspect as well. And the Puranas mention that Sri Rudra's Antaryami is Sankarshana and he is a Vibhuti of Sankarshana. Therefore, when the Vedas and other Shastras mention that Shiva is Paramatma or Parabrahman, those statements have to be interpreted with regard to Rudra's Antaryami being the final subject of those Vakyas and not Rudradeva himself, as the Shastras cannot contradict each other. This is the same case how the Vedas also mention Indra, Agni, Varuna, etc. being the supreme being, but at the same time they mention that those devatas are born entities and also face birth and death as they take birth and work at the fear of Paramatma. Same is the case with Shiva and the other devatas too, as it is suggested in the Shastras themselves that they are dependent entities and dependent on Paramatma. The Vishwakarma Sukta makes it very clear that the original names of all the devatas originally belong to Paramatma and not to those devatas themselves, but those devatas were named by Paramatma. Therefore, the ultimate subject of all Veda mantras and other prayers in the Shastras that glorify one as Paramatma or Brahman ultimately goes to Paramatma alone and not other devatas, even though they may be invoked because Paramatma is their Antaryami who resides within their heart. This is accepted by all Siddhantas, except that the identity of Paramatma varies with every darshana. For Shaiva darshanas, the identity of Paramatma is Shiva alone and Vishnu is a Jiva as said in the Shaiva Agamas. As per them, it is Shiva who is the Antaryami of Vishnu, just as vice versa is believed by Vaishnavas. So similarly, it would contradict Shaivism itself if Shaiva were to accept the supremacy of Vishnu, which is why none of the Shaiva darshanas actually do. Therefore, contradictory to the misinformation being repeatedly peddled, there is absolutely no disrespect involved when a Vaishnava says that Shiva is not Paramatma and subordinate to Vishnu, or vice versa in the case of Shaivas. It is merely following one's own Siddhanta and not deviating from it. However, again, the Devatas are very much exalted personalities and should never be disrespected no matter what, just as we consider our parents, elders, etc. to be Jivas, but we do not disrespect them. Among Vaishnava Sampradayas, Madhvas very much worship Shiva, Durga Devi, Ganesha, Skanda and other Devatas to gain their blessings to approach Sri Vishnu and progress on the path of Bhakti. There are numerous Shivalingas in the Ashtamatas established by Sripada Madhvacharya himself, who has also written prayers for Shiva that are recited by Madhva Vaishnavas during daily worship. The famous Dharmasthala Manjunatha Shiva temple of Karnataka is also owned by Madhvas and was consecrated by Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu. However, it is not disrespect when we say that certain devatas are not Bhagavan when it is said so explicitly in the Agama Shastras themselves, which are the core of philosophy. This is a recurring objection by many, and probably the most nonsensical and ridiculous. It's silly if anyone thinks that the same Shastras which repeatedly mention the Pancharatra Agamas and glorify them would suddenly contradict them. If the Agamas themselves were refutable in just few statements, then how is it even possible that rishis were following them for thousands of years, and even Sri Vishnu himself propagated them in the first place? Sri Vaishnavas, Madhvas, Vaikanasas, and all other Vaishnavas have been existing since thousands of years, since Satyayuga itself, and there is no possibility that they would be wrong simply because of few statements in the Shastras which themselves glorify the Pancharatra Agamas again and again. Importantly, no single Hindu possesses the right to impose their views on others or all Hindus, especially after knowing that Pancharatra is one of the numerous darshanas of Hinduism. As explained already, certain devatas are said to be Parabrahman only on the basis of Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvamasi, because the same Shastras mention that they are dependent entities and not Paramatma or independent entities. They face birth and death and are dependent on Paramatma ultimately, as said in the Vedas too. Just like Indra, Agni, Chandra, etc. are said to be born from Purusha in the Purusha Sukta and are said to work at the fear of Paramatma in the Taittiriya, Aranyaka and the Puranas as well. In the context of these devatas being glorified as the supreme being, those names are assumed to refer to Paramatma and not those devatas of Swargaloka or the well-known devatas, as that would contradict the Shastras. Same is the case with Shiva, Brahma and all other devatas as well, as said in the Vaishnava Agamas for Vaishnavas. Merely following one's philosophy is not any form of hatred contrary to popular misconceptions. Most people, being unaware of all this, are being manipulated into indulging in politics among sampradayas and getting into philosophical conflicts, which are absolutely not a good thing for sadhana and progressing on the path of bhakti. Therefore, this video intends to dispel such misconceptions. Dhanyavadaha. Thanks for watching.